Hello and welcome back to everyone that's tuned in to the American Ultra Stock channel. Thank you so much for being here with us today. As you see, it's a video by the title. You guys can tell we're doing a transfer update right here. Not really an update, more of a preview. As you guys know, it's a very busy time of the year where some of the guys, specifically in MLS, since the season's over, it's some may say the perfect time to get a move, so they have a bit of hype to them, and also to try to be a quick fix or maybe a long-term project that gets scooped up by a team in Europe. Straight to the point, we have made a short list right here of 5 guys who are likely to be on the radar or should be on the move. We'll start with the one that I think has been on the news a little bit more recently in terms of concrete interest. Braden John Token, 22-year-old left back. We saw he had a good Olympics. He did really well for the Red Bulls as well. Do you think it's time for him to pull the plug? There's nothing else he could do at a Red Bulls team here in MLS. Do you favor this move to Europe, and where do you think he will be going?
Yeah, I mean, I think now is probably the perfect time to leave. I know he'll be disappointed with how the MLS Cup final went, but I think realistically that is the peak that he's going to get at the New York Red Bulls. Realistically, I can't see them winning an MLS Cup. I think their run to the final was very improbable as it is. Got a little bit lucky with a couple of the better teams getting knocked out before they had to face them, but regardless, I think it's the perfect time. Like you said, he was great in the Olympics. I think that showed that he can compete at a higher level, and there's been no shortage of interest, that's for sure. Even going back to last year, there was rumors recently that he could be going to Anderlecht, but reporters there said that it won't be a priority. He was a priority in the summer, interestingly enough, but we talked about this during the summer. The Red Bulls wouldn't let him go because they wanted to keep him for a playoff push. It ended up kind of working out for them, but they ended up signing another left back instead. Anderlecht did, so probably not going to be there, although there has been rumors to Bundesliga, to the EFL Championship. RB Leipzig are one in particular that are mentioned just because of the Red Bull connection. We saw what happened when Caden Clark made that move, but Tolkien's definitely a lot further along in his career. I don't know if that's necessarily the best option. It's a huge jump, but somewhere in the level of the Bundesliga, maybe high championship, I think does seem to fit him pretty well. I think he's definitely ready for that. He's shown that, and honestly, it's looking like we're not going to get Nathaniel Brown from a dual national perspective. And so we're still looking for the backup, the concrete one to Jedi. And I think if Tolkien makes a move to Europe and can really flourish there, I think he solidifies that spot, even though he hasn't gotten a chance recently.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I like the mindset. I mean, it remains to be seen whether he will fully adapt. It was just a few games that he was really in for the Olympics, but he does really well in the big games for the Red Bulls as well. I like that he is a guy that developed a role of almost an important player, a very important player for the Red Bulls. Not the main player, but up there in the team sheet. So hopefully, best of luck to him. Hopefully, he does get a move. Now, another one right here that, frankly, I thought he should have moved during the summer. Historically, you've pointed out it's your club, Philadelphia Union. They typically sell them during the winter transfer. Not the best of seasons for him, but hopefully, I think he's still a very good player, very technical. I always expect Philly to go a little bit further than they did this year. And McGlynn, 21, still very young, but if we compare the position he plays in and where some of the guys that play in that position are playing in Europe, also around the same age, I think he does need to leave this summer. This winter. I know you probably don't want to see him leave in terms of your club, but overall, do you think it will happen? Where do you see him fitting?
I think you got some of that backwards. From a club's perspective, it definitely was not a good season. But from an individual perspective, I thought McGlynn had, I wouldn't say a breakout, because I think we already know the quality that he had, but by far his best season of his career, as you would expect. And I actually do want to see him leave. I value, as do the people who run the club, much to the chagrin of some of the fans, I value the development more than the on-pitch results. I think that's how it should be for MLS. And selling players to Europe and seeing them thrive there is the best example of that. So I want to see him leave. I think this is the right time. Like you mentioned, I have said in the past that the Union really only sell their prospects in January. We saw it with both of the Aronsons. We saw it with Mark McKenzie in the past. It's probably going to be the same thing for Jack McGlynn, maybe Quinn Sullivan down the line. There's going to be countless others that will come through the academy, but McGlynn, his time is now. We saw him in the Olympics. I mean, every time he's on a big stage, his poise and passing control is just incredible. Honestly, he has one of the best passing touches I've seen for a midfielder or a player in general, especially at the level. Honestly, outside of Messi, I don't think it's unfair to say he has the best left foot in MLS. And I think it's honestly exactly what you said. It's the exact right time. And if he does stay for another season, I think it would probably be a little bit of a waste for his career just because he's already 21. He's already aged out of the youth national teams, even from an Olympic level. He's done that. He's basically accomplished everything he needs to within MLS. Kind of like the Red Bulls, he had his sort of peak with the Union a few years ago in MLS Cup. I believe he actually started the MLS Cup final 2 years ago and did well. That's probably the furthest that the Union are going to go, especially for the next few years. There's been a lot of interest. PSV are probably leading the race. There's been championship interest like Tolkien. There's been interest from La Liga. Real Sociedad have been long-term admirers of him, kind of like PSV, and I think that's one of the perfect destinations. Maybe not necessarily a club with the stature of Real Sociedad, but a team in La Liga. I've said it for so long. I think his play style fits perfectly. La Liga, he's so anti-American the way he plays. I think just how silky he is and just his play style in general, it seems so nonchalant the way he passes the ball, but not in a Malik Tillman way. I don't really know how to describe it, but I think Spain would be perfect for him. Maybe not a Europe level club like Sociedad, but a mid-table, maybe bottom half of the league. PSV scare me a little bit just because their midfield depth. Championship scare me because of the physicality concerns. I'd rather see him in a more technical league, at least initially, and then build up the physical a little bit more. But overall, I think the most important thing is just getting a move somewhere, and hopefully the right option emerges.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm interested to see where he ends up because he needs to get a move right now, like you said. And I meant for the Philly, not him individually, in terms of a bit of a rough season. And now moving on right here to the next one, dual national. We kind of forget that he's a dual national. I don't think Mexico has ever really approached him, treated him as a priority, even though I think they should, judging by how they're doing. But Diego Luna is still only 21. Definitely doesn't look like he's 21. I'm sorry, Diego, but that's how it is. But a very unique player, exquisite technique, but does really well, double-footed as well. A really good player. And again, I like these guys that step onto important roles for their clubs. It's fair to say he's one of the best players for Real Salt Lake. Now, do you think he's going to get a move? And do you think it's going to happen during winter or maybe during summer? It remains to be seen. I expected things to heat up a little bit in terms of transfers for Diego because he had a really good season.
Yeah, it's tough to say, honestly. I'm the same way. I would have expected a little bit more interest. The only thing concrete that I've seen so far is, interestingly, Leeds United. I would have thought they would stay away from Americans forever based on how it went when they were in the Premier League. But Luna's another one like McGlynn who doesn't strike me as an American style player, at least traditionally. So maybe there's some validity to that. Maybe they don't know he's American and they just know he has Mexican citizenship. Whatever the reason, they're interested in him. He'd probably compete 4 minutes with USMNT international Brendan Aronson. I mean, if he did take his spot, I think that would be all the proof needed that he's worthy to play for the USMNT. I'm sure Poch would definitely give him a look if he did replace Brendan, maybe for club and country. But honestly, I just don't think that's the best move, especially since they are going to probably get promoted to the Premier League. I mean, here's hoping for Brendan's sake at least. And of course, all the Leeds fans. We seem to have a lot of Leeds fans in our country for some reason, even after that whole fiasco. But I think it's a step too much. And considering the winger depth that they have, and that is where Luna has been playing, I think long term he is more of a 10. So there could be a spot there for him. But in terms of the wingers, and I mean, Aronson seems kind of undroppable for Leeds. I don't know what it is. The dude just plays 3 matches a week, 90 minutes, and in most of them, it's kind of crazy. But the winger depth they have with the likes of Nyonto, Dan James, Lenor Solomon, Largi Ramazani, I just don't know if I can see Luna getting consistent minutes there. Maybe it's at the 10, but at the winger position where he's been playing basically his entire Real Salt Lake career, it just worries me a little bit. I think a lesser league, kind of like the Eredivisie, more of another stepping stone where he can continue to take these small progressions instead of making a huge jump to potentially the Premier League in half a year. I think Eredivisie makes more sense. I think even Belgium would make more sense. Somewhere like that. Championship is fine, just not a team that's going to get immediately promoted because then he's probably not going to get minutes in the Prem. Maybe he'll get a loan. Just moving so quickly on to a new club isn't really healthy for a player. So I hope something else comes up, maybe he has to wait to the summer to find his perfect destination. A lot of players do, and I think that's definitely more important than just getting a move immediately. But like you said, I mean, he is 21. His time is running out a little bit in terms of the window, because once you get a little too far gone in MLS, we've seen Jesus Ferreira, you kind of can't escape. So he does need to move sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I think he will move. I really think so. I think he has it in him to want to move as well. I know he mentioned that it's a little bit tougher now that he has a family here. He'll be getting paid quite a good amount of money to be able to relocate them over there. Now we'll move on to a position where we are in dire need of someone to step up. As you saw, our starter, I don't want to throw any shade on him, but he didn't even start in a cup game, the League Cup game. So Matt Turner is riding the bench even on third string level matches. Well, we need Patrick Schulte to step up. He did really well with the crew. Fair to say, the last couple of years, tremendous job. I mean, as much as you can do really as a goalkeeper in MLS. Some good performances for the USMNT as well. But now I think time's ticking. He needs to leave the crew. He's 23, still very young for a goalkeeper. But for a club from abroad to invest in you, I'm also for you to have a chance to be starting by the time you're 25, 26, really reaching the progression of maturity as a goalkeeper, you need to move ideally right now. Do you think he's going to get a move during winter? Where do you see him fitting? It's very tough for goalkeepers to move because it's really, really tough. So I'm curious to see what your opinion is. Do you think he maybe should stick around until the summer so he gets a full-on project from the beginning instead of just kind of clicking in mid-season?
Yeah, well, since you mentioned Matt Turner, I want to give a quick shout out to Pochettino for going to the Crystal Palace versus Arsenal game. Great use of time, really just fantastic. Watching Turner and Richards sit on the bench, I'm sure there's nothing better he could have been doing. It's not like we have crucial dual nationals that he's not recruiting that he could have been talking to, but oh well, I'm sure he knows what he's doing. But anyway, on to Schulte. Honestly, I think this is a tough one because I think if he wants to be a starter for the USMNT in 2026, and I think realistically that is probably his only chance at starting at a World Cup. I mean, it seems kind of harsh to say, considering the fact that, I mean, he's barely just emerged on the scene, but I think we have a lot of prospects that are looking a lot brighter than he is. No shade on him, but just a little bit higher of potential, higher ceilings that will probably emerge by 2030 and beyond. So if he really wants to be in contention for the starting spot for the USMNT, and so far he hasn't been able to do that. He's been in camp, but hasn't even gotten a look under Poch yet in terms of starting a game. I think he does need to move sooner rather than later. Unfortunately, he plays for the Columbus Crew, and although they did do the correct thing of selling Aiden Morris, and I'll give them plaudits for that to them for that last summer. Like you said, goalkeeper is so tough because you have to find a replacement. You have to find a club that desperately needs one. I think in January, the market probably won't be there for a keeper unless it's a very short-term fix. And would the Crew really let him go out on like a 6-month loan to somewhere to fill a need? Absolutely not. I mean, they're competing for trophies in every competition they're in within North America. So I just think it's a little bit of a tough situation being at such a big club within the country as he is. It's a blessing and a curse, and this is where that comes out. Hopefully some interest does arise in the summer. I think that could be a good opportunity for them to bring in a new goalkeeper, maybe from Europe as well, that is out of time. Maybe they bring in Matt Turner. Maybe, I mean, who knows? He's definitely looking for a new destination. Maybe they bring in Ethan Horvath. I don't know. Just some options there. But Schulte, I think, does need a move probably in the summer. I just don't think it's going to come now, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, Venezia needs a goalkeeper. They're on the lookout, allegedly, so they never signed that American that they wanted to, but probably didn't have enough money for. Hey, he could be starting next week if he goes there, but I don't think it'll happen. I think for him, it's better to just leave during summer for a goalkeeper to acclimate to the squad, get it from the beginning of the season, have a proper preseason. But it remains to be seen. We definitely wish him the best of luck as we need a new goalkeeper. Fair to say that. I think everyone will agree. This is not hate on Turner. And now we finally move on right here to the youngest one on the list, 19 years old. Well, for a few weeks at least, we have Owen Wolf from Austin FC. Is it fair to say maybe a breakout season? I'll be honest, I don't watch much of Austin, but he seems to be doing quite well. Very limited side as well, so it's kind of hard to thrive playing for them, especially at the beginning of the season that they had. Brayden, do you think he's going to move, and what do you think his goals for the USMNT should be? Do you think that within the next cycle, not for 26, but for 2030, he has a shout of being in the squad?
Yeah, Owen Wolf is a very interesting one because I think people kind of forget about him. Maybe it's because Austin haven't been going under the most successful of patches. Maybe it's because he hasn't really been within the U.S. picture for a couple of years, at least since that U20 World Cup in summer 2023. But I think he's only 2 days away from being eligible for this next U20 cycle. And I think that fact kind of eludes a lot of people. He's technically an 04, but born on December 30th. It's kind of unfortunate the timing. That's why he is still 19, because I turned 20 in about 9-10 days or so as we release this. So I think that honestly he gets overlooked, and maybe for bad reason. I don't know if I'd say that this was a breakout season, because he played consistently for Austin the last 2 seasons as well, and it was kind of a weird year for him because his dad, Josh Wolf, USMNT past player, was the coach of Austin, and you would think that would help him get more minutes. But funnily enough, he kind of benched Owen at times to save himself a little bit because he was on the hot seat the whole season. Ended up getting sacked towards the end or in the offseason. I can't recall which one. But funnily enough, he was benching Owen even though he was probably one of the best players at the club last season. I think for a kid that's still 19, as of now at least, about to turn 20, that already has almost 5,000 MLS minutes under his belt, this would be honestly a great time to leave, especially when the club did just sack his dad. I don't know if staying there would necessarily be something that they want. His contract is only until the end of next year, so some club could probably get him on a cut price deal. And it has been reported that Stade Brestois, the surprise package of Ligue 1 last year and the Champions League this season, I believe they're actually in 7th in the UCL, and I think probably their first ever appearance there. So hugely impressive season for them these past 2 years, and they're actually interested in Owen Wolf. They're actually the only club I think that I've seen show interest, which is kind of what sparked the idea to put him in this video in the first place. I think that would be a perfect spot, really, because Ligue 1, it's technically a top 5 league, but we all know the quality isn't exactly the best in terms of Europe. I think it's a lot lower of a jump than maybe some other clubs would be in the Bundesliga, La Liga, Serie A, places like that. I think he can definitely fit in somewhere like there, maybe as a rotation piece to start, but get a couple of years. Since he is so young, I don't think there's really any harm of being a bench player when you go there first. It's basically what Caleb Wiley is doing now at Strasbourg, mainly because of injuries, but I think honestly it'd be so beneficial for him to have basically his entire career in front of him going to Europe at such a young age. I'm sure the development there is a lot better than it is in Austin, because no shade to them, but their academy and their development system has really not been the greatest over the past few years. So I think he's definitely a sleeper, maybe one that a lot of people wouldn't have had on the radar, but I think you need to put him on the radar because it's possible he moves, and if he does, he doesn't necessarily put himself into an immediate conversation for the USMNT, but definitely one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and I think that for all the hype that Kremovsky gets, for example, I think Wolf has done himself a lot of favors to attract more interest from Europe than we see for Kremovsky, which for some reason people really rate him highly. And I think, yeah, if you get the chance to move from Austin, not the city or anything, the people there, but just the club, it seems to be a bit of a mess. So I will definitely do that. And if he goes to rest, that immediately puts him on the spot for people to be on the lookout for him and increases his chances for the USMNT. Now, let us know in the comments below if you enjoyed this video. We have another one coming up. It's going to be the players that are abroad, which are definitely a sexier video for you guys to watch, since we'll be talking about the names that everybody knows and things that are very plausible to consider in terms of transfers. So stay tuned for that one. For this one, leave a like, subscribe, share with your friends if you can, and comment down below who you think will move and which one of these players you guys rate the most. We'll make sure to stay on the lookout, and we'll see you next time.